G'day, today we're going to talk about something slightly different. We're going to talk about what happens when a client starts to treat you like you're an employee. Now the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because I was talking with a friend of mine who's a freelancer last week, and she told me that there's something sort of weird been happening to her at this particular gig that she's got. One of her clients started micromanaging her. He wanted her to track every task in Trello, and he wanted her to write a detailed daily report about what she'd done and how she'd done it. In other words, he started to treat her like an employee, and in kind of the worst possible way, because everything that he asked her to do just sent these great big vibes that he mistrusted her. And that made her think about why this had happened, because the normal client-freelancer relationship is more like a win-win situation. I give you value, you give me money, and we're both equal entrepreneurs. But when we analyze several of her client relationships, not just this one, she realized that in all of them, she starts automatically acting like an employee. So her clients automatically start acting like an employer. What she realized was that she actually did nothing without approval from people, and she waited for further direction. And she basically put all the risk on the client's shoulders. She wasn't acting like a freelancer. So what I said to her was, as a first step, why don't you set new boundaries? And the easiest way to do that was to move away from billing from time to bill by tasks, okay? And so as the client wanted all this information about what you were doing and so on and so forth, and writing everything up, what she should do is add updates and daily reports as a billable task. In other words, charge for the fact that the client wanted to check up on her. And have some self-confidence in herself and her work, because she's perfectly capable of managing that situation, but she just needed to break the pattern that was in her own mind quickly and with impact. So she tried it, and guess what? It worked. The real reason why the client wanted her to report was that they couldn't see how she was handling a particularly sensitive situation, and they couldn't see her taking decisions that they thought she should be taking to move things forward. So they stepped in and started telling her what to do, as you would. So she and the client actually sat down and discussed it. She made some changes, which the client was really happy about, and the problem went away. Now, actually, you know what? This happens a lot. Successful freelancers have lots and lots of clients. They go where they're needed. They tackle one project after another. They don't kind of stop for anything. And that makes them different to many salaried employees, because there's no meaningless meetings. There's no long chit chat. There are no moments for listening to stories about cats from over the cubicle next door. A successful freelancer is an efficient problem solver that moves really quickly from task to task. In other words, you're totally task focused as a freelancer, not time focused. So what happens when a client actually wants to turn that on its head and then starts thinking that they actually want to manage your time rather than your outputs? And you know what, it can be a bit easy sometimes to justify the situation by saying, well, who cares? It's not really that bad, but actually it gets worse, because then they start giving you some extra work as well. And sometimes the extra tasks that they want to do, as well as managing your time, they could be important. A weekly call, for example, with the rest of the people in the team might result in a smooth week ahead. Spending time on their social media pages may show the client that you're really invested in the well-being of the company. So those things are fine up to a point. So long as they don't absorb a lot of time, then that could fall under the give and take rule. But if things get out of hand, or they aren't helping to begin with, then you need some protection. And here's a few tips that'll help you to manage this particular situation. And the first one is practice safe freelancing. Let's say you have two clients. One client that you invoice every 2 weeks, and that's about all the interaction that you have with them. You just go and do the job, they pay on time, you're happy, they're happy. The second client though wants you on a weekly call, wants you to reply to all the blog comments on their website, wants you to attend company outings, and may actually have no respect whatsoever for your time. They ring you at 11 o'clock on the weekend because they're working, and so you should be too. Now look, if these little things are happening in that kind of relationship building, that's one thing. But if what's happening is you're getting very little results in terms of extra income for your time, that's when you need the protection. The protection is called money. Now you can't possibly charge the first client and the second client the same price. because your time has to be compensated. That's what you've got, that's your asset. What you're trying to do is to protect your time. You're not trying to be greedy. So if the first client, you just get in, get the job done, get out, boom, okay, that's it. If over here it's got all these other add-ons of time and you find that you're spending upwards of nearly a day a week on all this other crap, you've got to charge for it. And you need to explain to the client that because of the time involved over here, you're going to need to charge them more for the increased scope of services. Now, a good client will understand that and happily give you the raise if that's actually the way they want to run you, to be part of these various meetings and so on. But often they don't even realize that they're doing it, and they certainly don't realize the value of your time. So you need to make them aware of it. Now, number 2 is don't assume that the client doesn't trust you. This happens with a lot of companies who aren't used to dealing with freelancers. People who treat you like a salaried employee are just used to doing it that way, which is why it's also really important not to get pissed off with the client, okay? Don't assume the worst. Don't think that they're out to waste your time. They probably just don't know any better. So what you need to do is to sit down with them and have a chat about it, because your time is really, really important. You respect your time a great deal, and you need to inform your client that your time is valuable. And your dollars per hour may go sky high if they keep putting these demands on you. You need to work out with the client that you're going to be working efficiently. You want to make sure you're keeping on making lots of money, and you do that by guarding your time, because at the end of the day, that's really all you've got to sell. Number 3, your ultimate loyalty must be to you, which is the opposite of being a salaried employee. And the bottom line is that when it comes to freelancing, you want to give your best work to your clients. You need to do what you say you're going to do, but at the end of the day, your loyalty is to you and your business, and you've got to know where to draw the line, and you've got to have the courage to say something when that line is crossed. Freelancing also makes something really clear for workers in the economies of today around the world. You need to be on your own side, because you know what? Nobody else is going to be. The number of people who are working now for themselves is just going through the roof on a global scale. There really isn't any such thing as job security in the 21st century. So you need to make sure that you provide your own job security by not being taken advantage of. The 4th way to make sure that you don't get treated like an employee is to avoid really, really short deadline work. Because often you find that a client will give you this little bit, and then this little bit, and then this little bit. Now, you're going to have plenty of gigs as a freelancer which might have a 2 or 3 day turnaround. And you know, that's when the client can start treating you like an employee, expecting you to pull all-nighters or work on the weekends to get the work done. This is a slippery slope, because nothing is free. You need to remember that. Either the client is paying you to do these long hours, or you're paying for it yourself, okay? And number 5 is to set boundaries with your clients and then stick to them, because you know, generally freelancers don't like saying no. Every time we do it, it feels like we're kind of turning down money. But setting boundaries isn't the same as saying that you'll never be available again. As long as you do what you say you're going to do, and you make accommodation for good clients every now and again, you have every right to set your schedule, balance your client list as you see fit. The goal is to manage your time, not to let your time manage you, being driven by unreasonable client demands. The 6th thing to think about is communicate, because many freelancers feel strange talking to one client about their responsibilities to other clients, which I think is a mistake actually, because if you're open with your clients that you do have other deadlines with other clients, then you're going to come across as a business person who's trying to follow through on previous commitments instead of an undedicated worker who's kind of not interested in finishing a project. Okay, no, you don't need to share the details. Just don't be afraid to speak up when a client request is going to conflict with another responsibility and another promise that you've made to somebody else. If it makes you feel better, think of it as not saying no, but saying not right now, and then see if you can renegotiate on the time, okay? Your client needs to know that you're a scarce resource. This is a really good way of showing it. If they want to use more of your time, then they have to make it more attractive for you to switch. It's actually the way a lot of freelancers actually end up charging a lot more than the rates they started with. The clients recognize their value, and they actually want more of them, but they're not going to get them at that same price. If you want more of me, it's going to cost you more per hour. So I then start to have a better style of life. Now, this one's really important. This is very insidious. Beware the angry middle manager. This happened recently to one of my freelancer teams. She had a great relationship with the client who owned the company, but one manager in his team was totally unable to cope with the fact that she came in when she needed to work on site, she did the rest of her work outside from home or from co-working spaces, and she was really good. He tried to insist that she come in and work where he could see her and work for the full number of hours that they were paying her, basically in front of him almost, in the office so he could see, and to submit daily reports. And then he started critiquing her work, even though it actually wasn't his decision as to what was acceptable or not. He was using his power in the organization. And then he started complaining to the owner about her. Now, it turns out that this dude had tried and failed at freelancing himself. And on top of that, he was a misogynistic twat who couldn't bear to see a 23-year-old girl doing such a great job and coming and going as she pleased, as he put it. The owner apologized for him, but the owner said, look, I can't do anything because this guy is really valuable to Upset and, I don't want to lose him. So my friend terminated the contract on the spot, gave the requisite notice and said, I'm out. It was a very, very lucrative contract. She said, I'm gone. It just wasn't worth the pain and the upset. And you know what? Sometimes you will have to vote with your feet. So there you have it. There's 7 ways to make sure you don't slide backwards into employee land. And instead you're moving out and having the confidence to drive your freelancer business the way that you want to and have all those freedoms that are so important to you. So if you like this topic, we have an upcoming online course that will teach you in detail everything that you need to know on how to get on your feet and how to build a business using your skills from scratch. The link is in the description. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe because it'll help support the channel. And if there's anything else that you'd like for me to talk about, drop it in the comments. And don't forget to hit that bell icon to be part of the notification squad to get notified every time we upload, which we do every day, because I respond to questions in the first hour. I'll see you in the next video. I'll catch you later.